This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com/PsycheTruth.
Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to be doing a massage for shoulder pain. I'll be working on the lovely Lauren. Let's go ahead and get started. If you don't have time to watch this video right now, go ahead and save to your watch later and just watch whenever you get a chance. So usually with shoulder pain, depending on the type, it's usually referral pain. And a lot of the time it can actually be stuff going on in the low back. And I like to do just a nice stretch for the whole spine and rotate the pelvis a little bit in a healthier way to kind of put everything into a healthier position. Not a healthier position, but better for the shoulders maybe. And if you were to often just work on the area that your client is feeling the pain, like you're not going to make a whole lot of progress. You really have to think about where it's starting and where it's coming from. And with shoulder pain, it can be, you know, stuff going on in the front side of the body or the back. Maybe most likely both. And I typically, with all my massages, start with some compressive holds. They don't have to be fancy, just making sure that you're on that muscle tissue, avoiding any bony structures. And pretty much 100% of the time, if somebody has shoulder pain, it's because of this upper trap being somewhat a culprit, not the only culprit, but kind of plays a big role in what's going on in the shoulders. One thing that I've learned to do with massages, I'm very intentional about when and how I use my thumbs. So whenever I have other techniques to lean on, I usually choose those first. You could do these compressive holds with your thumb and it would feel really good, but tire your thumb out. And Lauren was complaining about pain that it sounds like it might be in her levator scapula. And so I'm actually going to do a pincer grasp before I put any oil on. And it's something that can help bring fresh blood and oxygen into that area a little bit. So you want to land on that muscle belly. And you don't want to, you know, go from using a little pressure to a lot. So kind of trying to stay in flow and not jump too much. And just landing on that muscle belly, making sure that I'm not pinching skin at all. And gradually as I hold, I'm just allowing my pincer grasp to get a little stronger as the muscle fiber starts to respond. And I'm gonna go in with my oil. So with this shoulder pain, I do want to spend a lot of time in those traps and also on top of the shoulder bone, that rotator cuff muscle, that infraspinatus. And with the warm-up, I try to just help my client ground into their own body a little bit more. So I'm not just rubbing the oil in, but kind of giving them a blueprint of where we're going to be focusing and just trying to get into flow a little bit more. With this work for the shoulder, I like to include the lats just because it feels really more whole body focused. It just feels better. The lats, because they're a superficial muscle, just this lighter effleurage stroke is really great for the lats, stretching all of that muscle tissue, connective tissue. Also checking for any swelling and just kind of tuning into how things feel different from the right to the left. So it might look like I am picking my hands up, but whenever I change position, I'm actually leaving one hand on, just really subtly so I don't lose contact. And I am going to be working deeper today, so I just want a really soft sheen on the skin. You can kind of see it's about perfect right now. Focusing a lot on that upper trap as it narrows into the neck and really gliding across the entirety of the muscle just really helps for a fuller release. You do need to keep your hands pretty soft and flexible, yet strong at the same time to do a type of effleurage stroke that's a little more therapeutic. I might need to grab a little more oil, but I think I can make it work. Sometimes I'll just brush my forearms across the back to get the oil that I need. And my favorite way to kind of transition into using my elbows is to land on these rhomboids and just work my way down the spine. You can bring the stroke all the way into the neck, but you obviously need to adjust your pressure. You're not really doing myofascial work, but you are, with using a really little amount of oil, you're helping that connective tissue stretch in a really healthy way. And I'm gonna go ahead and walk my way over. I'm just gonna work on this right side today, and I'm just gonna walk myself over without losing contact, and I'm gonna land on this lower trap and start working my way upwards into the area that Lauren is kind of feeling a little more tension in. And the key here, it might look like I'm just using my arm, but really my arm is an extension of my core and my whole body. So the work becomes a lot easier when you think about it like that. There's something very soothing about working on the rhomboids before the more intense stuff in the upper trap. And I'm doing compressive type holds, but just really, really slow movement. I start to work my way around that shoulder bone. And the way that Lauren was describing her shoulder pain, it sounds like it's more in the levator scapula. So I'm gonna kind of work towards that. But it's really hard to access that muscle working from this angle and in this direction. I'll kind of save that for a little later. And it's really good if you notice things about how your client holds their body, to like have awareness as you greet your client and how they're standing, how they're holding one side. Maybe the more information you have, the more helpful you can be, because you can spend 2 hours giving a really good massage, but if posture is really bad, or it can really affect shoulders a lot. Put a lot of pressure on the upper trap and the levator scapula. And you want to have the sensation of kind of kneading dough. So just making sure that the muscle tissue is responding really well before you try to go any deeper. And before I transition into the levator scapula, I'm just going to give myself a little break and Lauren a little break. Kind of catch my breath. And this is another nice way to just move towards the top of the shoulder without it being too like jolting or uncomfortable. And again, through all these transitions, just not really losing contact. And I'm going to start just working my way into this levator. And I'm really using a lot of my forearm. I'm going to start using more of my elbow as I go a little deeper. Sometimes I will support my hand just to feel a little more stable as I work, especially if I'm doing deep tissue. Once you land on that muscle, you can start to do some longer holds. I find that this muscle responds really well to longer holds. In my opinion, working on the levator scapula is a more challenging muscle. I feel like the upper trap is a lot more straightforward. This is an area where sometimes I feel like it's worth it to use my thumb. You can approach this in different ways. You can kind of, sometimes this area feels really crunchy and you can just decide to kind of not steam your way through that, but just kind of accept that it's there. Or do some longer holds, kind of a different approach, and avoid working through that in a quick way, just slowing it way down. And I'm going to end with work in the infraspinatus. So I'm just going to position this muscle by moving the arm in a way that is a little easier for me to work with. So this muscle often feels pretty confused when you start working on it because it's ignored so much. So I like to just do something simple to warm up this soft tissue, just using the heel of my hand. Can even use a soft fist if you want. Lauren is a very small framed person, so you just need to be a little more careful of hitting those bony structures. So, I'm using my left hand to just drag the skin and the muscle fiber down a little bit so that the muscle's a little more taut. Just gonna land on there, start doing some trigger point work in here. And often the pain that people feel is because this infraspinatus is responding to how contracted the upper trap is. This is really excellent work to do when somebody has that type of sharp, hard to explain shoulder pain. Really good to include the teres minor and major if you have time, but if I only have time for one rotator cuff muscle, it's definitely this one. And just making nice as I wrap up this work in the shoulder. And I always like to end with something for both sides, just to make the massage feel a little more complete. No better way than a few passes over that upper trap into the neck. And that is all for today. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's video, you should check out our Patreon page, where you'll find some really great content as well. I look forward to seeing you there.